error while recording. I have to start from here. Okay, great. So if you make a new particle, what you're going to do is, first thing I like to do, just so I get rid of those error messages, is save it. And I guess for now I'll save it in the drive. Oh, it needs to be saved to the AAA directory, but let's just pretend that it was. And it would say great, thank you, and then this would go away. I guess I better go ahead and do it. Hold on, give me a second. I have to shell in. I wish I had an alias set for this. I haven't done it yet. I guess I never will. I usually never close the fucking thing. Oh, I typed it in wrong. Oh, because I don't have it called OAA. Duh. Okay. Back to our particle editor. Save as. Make a new folder. Call it particle tutorial. Give it a descriptive name. I'm going to call it let's call it the Death Blast. I have no idea what I'm about to create. If you see this error, it's because it's trying to use the... Oh no, it should save actually. Okay, if you do save it and it gives you some bullshit, to just try save again, it'll redirect your path to the actual path instead of the virtual path by default, which is selected. It's not an allowed file path. Oh, because I put an underscore in it? Really? Well, you learn new things every day now that the error message is gone. So, base properties, don't have to touch this as far as I know. Renderer, we're just going to stick with sprites because sprites are what we know. We'll stick a continuous emitter on here. Continuous emitters are fun, and obviously a lifetime, because lifetime movies are fun. Am I doing it wrong? Lifespan, I'm sorry, lifespan. There you go. That's all you have to do for a particle. You could put this in the game and it would work. Not a problem. Well, let's have some fun with it. It's a screen-facing particle. You want to make a donut, you would go under Render Sprites and make it a rope, I believe. No, fuck that. What are we going to do with it? We can do anything we want. Let's just play around with it, okay? We're going to do a rotation. There's rotation basics, which is fine. But just type in rotate or rotate. You like to use these randoms, I believe. Rotate particle around axis. We could cheat and see. There's a lot of cheating going to be happening here, which is fine. We're going to cheat and see what the particle we were just looking at used, okay? No, wrong one. Where was it? This one. They used rotation random under initializer, which I would not have guessed. I would have guessed it would have been our operator, but fine. I suppose that since it's a continuous emitter, the initializer tells you the rotation of each particle as it begins emitting. Random is great. Random doesn't really do doesn't mean what you think it would mean. We're gonna render this on an offset. So initialize offset, normal offset, that sounds fine. Position modify offset, perfect. There we go. Now what's interesting is that it's rotating before the position offset. Doesn't matter what you do, it's not going to affect it. So there's a lot of trial and error here if you're trying to make something behave a certain way. Like when I was doing the shield particle, I had a very similar situation cooked up with a rotator. See, right now the rotation doesn't seem to have any effect. These particles are spinning, no doubt, but we don't have the correct offset modifier. But that comes with just practice, trying to figure out how to do things, how to make things offset. We're gonna get rid of those. I love this one. This one's cool. Let's do something that actually works. Let's see. There's oscillators. Oscillators are kind of cool. I pray to God that I can make things work in here, because so far nothing I've done has actually had any effect. I'm not really sure why. Just keep typing stuff and trying stuff. Frequency, rate. The fuck am I doing wrong? Oh, there we go. I was doing alpha, which at such a high rate of render, you don't notice the alpha change. We can actually slow the rate down under render. Or is, no, it's emitter, because it's a continuous particle, right? Let's slow it down incredibly low to 3. We've just created a dubstep particle here. There we go, dubstep particle. Okay, so one thing you'll notice is that it's very randomized here. We could fix that. Well, can we? No, our max and min are identical. It shouldn't be very random at all. Maybe that's just, you know, like I said, guesswork. This is a lot of guesswork. Oh yeah! Look at that cool shit. I haven't done this in a while. Okay, I see what's happening here. Set it to a round number. No, let's set it to 60 because it might be doing it in 60ths. Trying to get it to look continuous. Now another thing you could do is try a different emitter. What happens if you just do an instant? It emits everything during one instant. So you can make it a single instant particle. That has no effect. But instead of it being 100 particles, it's one. Let's see what else we could play with. Initials. Initials are your settings, like your colors. Now obviously you can set color under base properties, but for certain effects you can try other ones. Now this will set it to a random color between red and cyan, which should be every color in the spectrum. No, it's just gray. It won't spawn purples if you do opposites here. Unless you fuck with some of these, which, I haven't really tried. But yeah, that's your color, and watch, let's do something else. Let's use the continuous so we can overlap particles a bit. Now you got some freaky shit. Some tripperdelic nonsense. You can press tab to autocomplete a CD command in PowerShell. No, not if you've... Not if you just reloaded the program, can you? What good is that? Yeah, that's pretty cool. Thank you. That actually is really good. But let's see, what else could we do? We could add a child particle to this. Problem is, it wants them to be in the exact same folder as this particle. So we can actually save this one, and then we can do a save as and make it deathblast underscore B. Okay? And deathblast underscore B. Open recent, of course. It's not there. Okay. There. Death Blast. Great. Wonderful. Add a child. Death Blast B. So now we've got Death Blast with a child particle, Death Blast B. Now if we go to Death Blast B and change the colors to green, and magenta, and save, and then we open up Death Blast, we'll see that we've got both going on at one time. We can go over here and make this one radius 2.5, save it, and now you've got a particle with blue and red on the outside and pink and green in the middle. And you know, you just keep playing with these things, right? And let's just kill this. We don't care anymore. We've stopped caring. Now, check this out. Particles, particle tutorial. Well, I didn't save them in the right folder, but here they are, Death Blast. There it goes. Now, when you open the particle file, you'll notice that it's basically just KV, okay? There's a few what look like complicated things like blah 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 equals and blah 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 equals, but it's still just very, very similar to KV, only it's probably written in Lua, whatever. But this is just KV, okay? See KV3 encoding text. So yeah, it's KV. This is your driver, which is your control point. It's operating under this rule here. You can actually modify everything here in the asset manager. I just didn't bother with a lot of them. You can see some of the stuff that we did change was our oscillator. We added the render sprites with this texture. We did the colors, and then we had a child attached. Maybe we forgot to save it. I don't know. But you can see that this is all KV. It should have, if I had saved it after I'd made the child, it would have said something like that. And it would have had the child particle listed under here, and then you would open the child particle over here to look at it. I just forgot to save it after I added the child particle, but you can see it's KV. And then to attach them is also confusing and easy. Let's look at what we've already done, and one that we've already done successfully, and y'all can go from there. Abilities, shielder, modifier. So the idea here was that when the shielder is born, it gets this modifier added to it, which is shielded, and it never goes away. Another file we need is the shielder himself. Has a pre-cache KV, and inside that is a particle key value with the value of the particle that we had. This is a particle that I created. Very simple hex-shaped image particle that required a lot of weird tweaking and testing to get exactly the way I wanted it. So you have to pre-cache it in the unit that it attaches to. Actually, technically you could pre-cache it anywhere, but there's no point pre-caching something you're never going to use, and you have to have it when you need it. So cache it on something you know is going to happen. And we know that boss shielder shield is a modifier that is only applied to the shielder, so we pre-cached it on him. Function modifier boss shielder shielded buff on created. So as soon as he gets that buff, which is basically instantly, we can actually affirm that assertion by searching under this for. I got my coding fingers ready to crack. Yeah, modifier boss shielder shielded buff. Well, I don't know too much about Lua, but I'll tell you this. We know it runs on Shielder. because of this. The KV file for Shielder has an ability associated with it right here. So we know that Boss Shielder Shield is going to run, which applies this modifier, which on created applies this particle to this unit. Caster is a entity, so it'll only apply to the caster or to the unit that exists. If you spawn 100 shielders, it'll spawn 100 shields to them each, or one to each, and 100. Yeah, it'd be 100 of them on each. Shut up, I'm just babbling. Control point, we don't need this one. We could easily back this up and it would still work. Control points, if you look under your base properties of your particle, they have control points, and they can be used to do funny shit. I don't really think it's going to matter at this point. Most of the Valve stuff doesn't operate too complexly. All it does is create and destroy particles. You may or may not need to identify multiple control points at any given time, but I doubt that's going to come up. But if it does, be sure to let us know what you find out, because I don't know why you would need multiples. I'm guessing if you needed okay, so if you had a system that was like a laser, okay, you would need two. Or lightning, I suppose, you would need two. And you could attach one to the target and one to the caster, or the self, the entity that is casting the ability. That's a little bit more complicated, and I'm not going to worry about it. But it's pretty cool anyway that you can just create these particles. Also, the interesting thing is just how you test them, which is really cool. Now, for some reason recently, I've run into the problem of having to build the map every time I close it. Like if I close Dota Tools and I bring it back up, I have to rebuild the map, or else it won't work. I'm not sure why. It all started a while back when I fucked up my repository with some stupid thing. Every once in a while you completely fuck up your life with Git, which is super fun. I would recommend it. So I'm just going to rebuild the map. No, but the cool thing about particles is, okay, so I've done KV before, and I've even done a little bit of like script modding before of other people's scripts just to see what it would do. And you always have to reload the you either have to reload the script manually, or you have to just reload the add-on. Either way, it takes precious seconds of your life. Particles, as long as you've got the Lua, which attaches the thing to the other thing, as long as you're not modifying that file, that Lua file, or even that KV file, sometimes it's done through KV. Lua and KV are loaded on compile time, or on the time that unit. Basically, you just have to reload the script or reload the add-on. Let's put it that way. I don't know the specifics, but with particles, you do not have to unload or reload or compile anything. You could have a particle, you could be looking at it in the client, in the game, and watching in all its glory. Minimize it, go to the particle editor, change the color, change the speed, change the behavior. As long as you're not, I believe, okay, so if you tried to add another child particle that wasn't already pre-cached, it may not display and you'd have to reload, but don't do that. As long as you're just changing the values and not adding any new data, you go back into Dota and look, and you can see the effect live in the game. It is super cool. Yeah. Occasionally, if you Alt-Tab in the middle of a particle sequence and change it, and then go back in, it can actually cause the particle to not unload or not decay. But yep. And that, aside from showing you guys how to like test stuff. Oh, Gecko mentioned that it looks like it back when I was talking about the random with the 0.25. I think I covered that, what that did. And that it was actually just a modifier on the actual duration of the lifetime of the particle. He was saying that maybe it's a random between 0 and 100, but actually it was just changing the lifetime of the particle. But no worries, it's all very confusing. If you look under here, check this out. Get caster. Get the owner of the ability responsible for the modifier. And it's a handle. Okay. A handle, I believe, is an entity identifier. I could be wrong. But right here, what it's doing is it's finding self, and self is identified in a... Where is self defined? Self might be a... It looks, because it's orange, like it's a Lua function. So if it's in a modifier, you can easily do local caster equals self. Get caster. Local particle equals, and then you put the particle. Attached to origin. Standard shit for attaching particles to the center of units. You can also attach them to their feet or their head. You can make them do all kinds of weird shit too. You can attach them to their bones. Don't do that if you're doing it for multiple units, like attach to Keeper of the Light's horse's ass. And then you try and do that to Axe. Well, Axe doesn't ride a horse, so that could cause issues, but yeah. So the two or three particles that we have built in this game that I have been responsible, at least partially responsible for. Good old Shielder. Oh my god, he spawned right on top of me. Not sure why. Okay, so there he is. We can go into our particle editor. No. We go into our asset manager, we can type in hex. Hex 4. That's the orange one. Cannot open. Okay, great. It's giving me that weird shit it was giving me earlier. This is literally the first time it's given me that weird shit. So I'll just ignore that. I'll browse. I think because, I don't know why, but I can imagine reasons why it would do that. Okay. It can be a little funny with directories, and you just have to try it a few times to figure out why. In a lot of cases, it's because of the relative, the aliases that we've given to the folders, and the fact that they're actually virtual kind of fucks with it. And then you get this brain fart, you don't even remember where you are or what you're doing. There we go. Alright. See, there's my hex. But I decided that it's gonna be blue now. Save. Look at that. It's blue. In all of its glory. Now there's a separate kind of particle. If you'll notice, these are images. So if you look at it exactly parallel, they disappear. Because images are two-dimensional. If you could trivialize those two dimensions that it exists in, then that third dimension becomes apparent. And that third dimension is, by definition, empty. So it makes these fuckers disappear. Now with a model, models are three-dimensional. And I'll probably end up having to make a second sort of video, or y'all can help me figure out if there's no associated video with that project. But what we should figure out next is oh, fuck me. Alright. What we should figure out next is Render models. See now, if I apply the same operators and initializers, but instead of or in addition to a sprite, I do it to model, my question is, number one, am I going to crash the game? Oh, there it is. Oh my god. See, I don't see it. I see the skybox of the map, but that's not the same thing. That's not what I was expecting to see, so... This is a stupid model. Let's use a smaller one. Any of these will do. Now, like I was saying, the one problem that I'm having is that I'm actually not able to get these models to do what I want. Okay, there it is. There's the model. Nice. Okay, so I was able to get a model to spawn. And now as he moves around, he carries the model with him in the orientation that it was in. Isn't that just wonderful? With some exceptions, like when he turns and the camera gets in the way, it does some really weird shit. But for the most part, it looks perfectly fine. I had an issue earlier with doing one of these. I'm trying to attach a model to the charger boss. So that is going to be super interesting to do that. But now if we just look at this hex. If we just look at the hex. Where is it? Oh, I closed it. Okay, well if we were to look at the hex, you'd see that it is the same thing. It is just a whole bunch of KV. It's an emitter, it's a renderer, and those are the basics. And it's got a few tweaks to it, a few images, and you can add child particles. And all adding a child particle is basically making it where, and you don't have to pre-cache 2 particles. You have to pre-cache 1. You can put every particle in the game under a single particle, pre-cache it, and now you've pre-cached every particle in the game. That's all that is. That's all that is. Some base properties on the parent may affect the child. I'm not sure. But most likely, when you're starting out in particles, you're not going to need to know that. What you're going to need to know is the basics, and maybe have a couple of child particles to achieve a specific effect that you're unable to achieve otherwise. Like when I did with the hex shield, I needed those shield elements to be at exact angles and not move from them. And then when the hero turned, they needed to follow him. So I had to use child particles for that. And I just made them new, brand new particles. I used Valve's well, when you're implementing them in Lua, you'll have to use the scripting API, but yeah, ModDota. I use ModDota a lot. Where is it? Tutorials. Where is it? Alright, ModDota, here it is. Particle Creation Series. Particle Basics. Creating your first particle. It tells you what all the renderers are. It tells you what orientation means. How textures and models behave. Operators can have these effects. Lifespans are very important, and this tells you what they do. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't tell you anything. But it's still useful to have ModDota here And to have this right here, this page bookmarked, because it is super useful. If any of you made it to this point in the video, congratulations. I've bored you to death. But to answer the question, what is the learning curve on particles? It is steep enough. Like I said, it is incredibly easy and confusing. Just like KV. KV is insane. Lua also, but for the most part, I don't do that, so I can just relate it to KV, where you can have what looks to be a perfectly functioning thing, and it's completely wrong. So you just start over, and you try it again, and you build it up from nothing. You make a single particle, you apply various tricks to it, various gimmicks, bling. So, you know, various models. There's a million models in this game, and you can scale them to any size you want. So the limit to the usefulness of this is nothing. It's limitless. Using built-in shit. Obviously, we can create new textures. We've proved that with the blueberry. So we could even create our own textures to make our own sprites, to make our own particles. Not only that, we can use our own textures applied over our own models used in a model-based particle system. For now, though, let's not even worry about all that shit, and let's play around with the default textures and models available. Like I said, there's hundreds, at least. One of our devs decompiled every particle and sound from the Dota 2 source engine resource file, and it was like 10 gigs. Granted, a lot of that is audio, but I guarantee there's more than you could ever. You would never get tired of playing with the default images and models and just seeing how you can fuck them up and tear them apart and rebuild them into different shit. I could imagine making a particle of like a beach ball. You could make a beach ball out of particles and have a you could make it a model even. That would be the cheap way to do it. Make a circle in Maya and give it a beach ball texture. And there's a guy in our art channel who can tell you about models, but as long as you save it as a model and put it in the right folder in Dota, you could probably just use it as a particle and attach it to a unit and make a volleyball game, a volleyball custom game out of a beach ball that you made. But, you know, it all comes down to logic and math and figuring out creative ways to apply them, and also having the, if not the ability to apply them in Lua, or to implement them in Lua, then at least the cooperation of a coder who can, and we've got many coders in our group that are really excited about making spells and that understand that particles are necessary to make players enjoy the game, to get players to enjoy the game. For instance, in Shielder, all we had to do was add a stupid fucking particle to him, and now people suddenly, instantly, looking at his model and watching him move around in three-dimensional space, they say, aha, we're hitting him from the front and he's not taking damage, and there's this red particle on him that indicates that's the reason for that. It indicates that there is in fact a reason for that. It's not just a bug. It's gonna improve the quality of the game tremendously. Just a single particle, which you can tell from the video is not very hard to make. It's hard to perfect, and it's confusing to understand at first, But so was Git. And how many of us know how to use Git now? A lot. And we're doing fancy stuff with it. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. And I hope I've communicated a sort of general understanding and appreciation for the mostly appreciation toward particles and how easy they can be. I probably left some stuff out. I didn't really show y'all everything, but I covered the broad strokes. And yeah, that's it. That's all. Thank you. I hate ending videos, but I'm gonna do 3, 2, here's some boobs for y'all. 1, bye.